The death of Jacob. Then he gave them these instructions: I am about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite, the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre in Canaan, which Abraham brought as a burial place for Ephron the Hittite along with the field. There Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah were buried. And there I buried Leah. The field and the cave in it were brought from the Hittites. When Jacob had finished giving instructions to his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. So he knew he was going to die. He told them that he didn't want to be buried in Egypt. He wanted to be taken his body back to the promised land and buried with his wife. So in the cave, and guess what's going to happen? It's going to success. So let's continue to read. Joseph threw himself upon his father and wept over him and kissed him. Then Joseph directed the physicians in his service to embalm his father Israel. So the physicians embalmed him, taking a full 40 days for what was the time required for embalming. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. So some of the customs, from Egypt that they went ahead, Joseph went ahead and had done as representations and such. So let's continue. When the days of mourning had passed, Joseph said to Pharaoh's court, If I have found favor in your eyes, speak to Pharaoh for me. Tell him, my father made me swear an oath and said, I am about to die. Bury me in the tomb I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. Now let me go up and bury my father, then I will return. Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father, as he made you swear to do. So Joseph went up to bury his father. All Pharaoh's officials accompanied him, the dignitaries of his court and all the dignitaries of Egypt, besides all the members of Joseph's household and his brothers and those belonging to his father's household. Only their children and their flocks and herds were left in Goshen. Chariots and horsemen also went up with him. It was a very large company. Because Pharaoh does big. I gotta say something about this too. When they reached the threshing floor of Atad near the Jordan, they lamented loudly and bitterly. And there Joseph observed a 7-day period of mourning for his father. When the Canaanites who lived there saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, The Egyptians are holding a solemn ceremony of mourning. That is why that place near the Jordan is called Abel Mizraim. Brief pause. So, funeral happens, and have you... So back then, according to scholars and such, the Egyptians, it was part of the mourning process, and also because Joseph was considered part of the, royalty, it had to be big. It had to be big, excuse me, a big thing for when someone passes. And so there were mourners, people who went to mourn with them, and past to present. Do we see people who are paid to mourn? I'm not sure, but do people hold elaborate funerals? Yes, absolutely. So things like similar definitely happen today. You see caskets made out of extremely expensive material and paraded through an area, and then the hearse, and and I mean, how many people, and not just speaking of that, but how many people have been through a funeral line, with your lights blinking, as a sign of respect, or a current process that people culturally do, and so those are things to look at. And Is it something to give honor to that person and understanding and acknowledge that that person was of faith or what have you? So it's things to think about in our minds, in your mind, in my mind, when it comes to, especially when it comes to a funeral and how it's played out, how it's done. You know, I know people, some people want to have an elaborate funeral. They want to have tons of people there. They want to have um, a parade, you know, and so it's a lot to think about and stuff to pray about as well, to talk to the Lord about. What kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind when we read over this? How does it make you feel and what does it make you think?